Hey everyone, my name's Dusty from Pacific Arc Tig Welding. Welcome to another episode. I'm a welding artist from Vancouver Island, Canada. I do 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional art pieces on my channel. And on my channel, I love showing off and teaching the art of TIG welding. So if it's your first time checking out my channel, be sure to bounce back, check out the previous episodes. There's plenty to watch. So I got busted. I was just working in my house one day, minding my own business, and there was a knock on the door. And who was it? It was one of my really nice neighbors. These neighbors tend to be a little bit nosy, and the man asked, I need to ask you a question. Have you been doing welding in your garage this whole time that you've been living here? I thought about lying, but he's really nice to me all the time, so I couldn't lie to him. I said, yes, I have a welding studio in my house. I have a YouTube channel. I've been doing it for like a couple years now. And he said, well, that's great because I have a job for you. Busted. Anybody that hits me up and say they want to learn how to welding, my first warning to them always is, as soon as people know that you're a welder and you have a welding setup at your house, people are going to be knocking on your door trying to get you to do jobs. This is one time I couldn't say no. I said I would help them out with whatever it is they needed. Stupidly, before even asking what the project was. So luckily it's not too bad of a job, but what we're going to do, we're going to get into it here today. I'm going to try and help them out, try and get this project done for them, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here's the bundle of stuff that they dropped off on my front door. So I was actually kind of impressed. It seemed to have a bunch of stuff sheared up from somewhere, so that was kind of cool. So we're not looking at too ragged of pieces that have been sitting in someone's backyard for a while, so that's good. Let's set those aside. What else we got here? We got some base plates. It looks like I have some rough instructions here, but not much to go off of. So again, these have been sheared. They've been punched out maybe with an iron worker or something like that. Okay, and we have some square stock. This is pretty heavy duty. So we're looking at about 4" by 4", 100 mil by 100 mil basically. It's about 4.6 mil, so yeah, 3/16 of an inch. Cut this open. Oh, wet, gross. Okay, this will be all right. I guess first order is to get it cleaned up. So let's get it up on the table. We'll hit it with some Scotch-Brite and try and clean it up. So first piece here. Oh shoot. Oh man, make me clean off my table too. Move my phone. A little alien. I'm gonna keep him safe. Be safe up there, mister. Garbage. Scrap I've been meaning to throw out from freaking months. I guess this is good. On one hand, I'm gonna clean my table, which I've been neglecting to do for a while. Funny, I'm gonna put all this stuff away and now I'm not gonna be able to find anything when I need it. Man, they better invite me over when it's barbecue season this summer. Okay. So I just got some Scotch-Brite. It's a 3M Scotch-Brite pad. Just gonna scuff it up by hand, try and get some of the surface oxide off, clean it up a little bit, and then we'll suss it out as we get closer to tacking it together. All right, how's that? That's gotta be a lot better than what we started out with. Much cleaner. As you can see, I kind of scuffed everything up with the Scotch-Brite pad pretty well. I did the whole lengths of everything just to get it all uniform. I don't know if this is getting painted or if it's staying raw aluminum. So basically, I tried to treat it like it was staying raw and just kind of keep it nice and clean, nice and uniform as well. Everything was pretty water stained. You can still see some remnants of the water stain on the surface. So overall, I cleaned it off pretty well. So inside, I'll give it a quick scuff before I go as well. And just make sure no contaminant from the inside gets drawn out into the weld. I mean, you saw how messed up it was when I was unwrapping it. It was pretty gross. Definitely water stained and oxidized. So nice and clean now. Get it ready to tack it up and let's go. Okay, so I got my piece propped up here, so I'm gonna be able to see everything really clearly. I'm gonna tack my caps in place first, make sure everything's nice and square and straight. Then I'm actually gonna rest my hand in an overhand position and do my corner to corner like so. I'll be able to see everything. I actually prefer an overhand grip because I can tend to have a better viewing area. I can see everything really clearly. That's just a preference, but that's how I'm gonna set up for this joint here. So for a machine setup on the CanaWeld here, I'm gonna be using the 201 Pulse D again. As always, set it to AC, obviously. We are at obviously low amps because I was on stainless. Let's crank this all the way up. Goes to 200. No downslope because I'm using a foot pedal. A little more time for post flow. Try about 4 seconds. About 30% positive, 100 hertz. Quick blast of pre-flow, no upslope because I'm using a foot pedal. 200 amps, there we go. Okay, so I've fully got it tacked in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tack them all in place, so I'll be able to tack them all at once and then weld them out all at once as well. So here we go, let's tack up the rest. Alright, so one thing I usually try and teach people, whether it's people in person or people in my online program, is how to tack things properly. I always want to make my tacks exactly how I want my weld shape to be. So I want my tacks to be smooth, blended, nice and prone to the surface. And that way there's no bulky tacks to go over. And I'm actually tacking in the same position that I'm going to be welding, so that way I get used to the position and the tacks turn out exactly the same as my welds will. Okay, here we go. So watch how patient I am off the start. Patience, big key here. Waiting for everything to blend fully, couple dabs. And then once I'm getting going here, watch, I'm going to start paying attention to the amount of fill I'm putting in. In my online program, we focus a lot on weld shape and reinforcement height. So as I'm traveling here, I'm really paying attention to how much my reinforcement is stacking up with each filler rod dab I do. You can see my tungsten's actually aimed slightly higher in the joint, so it's a little bit off center. However, gravity is pulling the puddle to a centered position. So that's what I'm kind of eyeballing. And here you go. You're going to notice I'm starting to use a little more filler rod towards the end. I want to keep this thing from getting too hot as I'm coming towards the end of the pass. Okay, so for a first pass, that went pretty good. Overall, everything sat down pretty nicely. The main things I always look at when I'm doing a corner to corner is we want to make sure everything's nice and prone, sat down nicely, pretty much flat. So those are the things I look for with that. Overall, everything's running pretty clean. We don't see any kind of contaminant or any kind of garbage floating in there. We have a nice even line of cleaning action or arc burn or whatever you want to call it on either side, relatively consistent. It means our torch angle is pretty good. Our stepping in between each dab, relatively consistent. So for the most part, let's just stick with this plan and keep rolling with it. Alright, so continuing on here, I'm going to make sure the pass always is nice and centered like I explained before. And if you see, I'm dabbing up the corners a little bit extra right there, so that way when I pick up on the next side here, I know I'm getting good contact with the pass beforehand. There we go again, another blend, and then pull out from that blend. So I make sure that the corners always wrap to each other. There's no voids in between the two passes. There's a cool little view from underneath. You can kind of see how close I am to the joint. Look how close my tungsten is to the weld pool. I get it nice and tight. I want to give it good gas coverage and make sure that everything turns out nice and clean. Okay, we did it. We're all finished. So there we go. We can see everything is corner to cornered pretty well. These tall ones as well look pretty decent. Overall, my corners turned out all right. Consistency between beads turned out pretty good. Everything turned out relatively clean. Another big thing is we don't have any wire brush scratching on top. So if this does stay raw aluminum, it will look pretty uniform. We don't have any draw marks with a wire brush on top. So as it stands right now, they look pretty good to go. I'm pretty happy with these. Let's get ready to tack them up and do the base plates. All right, here we go. A little bit of fill. You can see me tapping my fill to the music I'm listening to right there. And now I give it a lot of patience off the start here because as we said, we're using almost all the amperage that we have on the panel. And I'm still waiting for that puddle to drop the way I want it to because I'm not going to move until it's perfect. That's the key I teach everybody that I work with is patience off the start. The start is the most important part of your weld. So lots of patience, and then once you get able to get rolling like I am now, all you have to do is maintain. You've already established a good shape, everything happy on the start, and then once you're happy, you can just roll out with it. And then I started to bonk into the camera here because the frickin' camera is so close. Here's my filler rod hand that was stuck right there. So I get a bit of a dirty dab on the end there, but I'll clean it up here. No big deal. Obviously this is faster, but you can see how much heat I'm using on the panel. I'm using almost 200 amps. This is a hot weld, and I'm giving it lots of fill to keep everything from getting out of control, but it's always a fun weld. You just get to lay it down and rip. All right, we got it done. I was decently happy with this one. Obviously not total ideal setup for a heavy weldment. Like we saw in the breakdown for these parts, these were heavier parts, so 200 amps was enough to get it done. Would have preferred a little more power. Definitely would have preferred a water-cooled torch. This gas-cooled torch did get it done. It's all good, but yeah, a more ideal setup for a heavy weldment would be more ideal. But regardless, I was happy to help someone out, get this project finished for them. Stay tuned. The next episode I'm gonna drop on my channel is a new art piece I've been working on for like a month and a half. I pulled a couple all-nighters on this one. I poured a ton of soul into it. I worked my fingers to the bone on this one, and I've never been more stoked with how a piece turned out. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the freaking reminder or whatever it is, so that when I drop the episode, you get to see it right away. I'm really stoked to share this with everyone. So if you enjoyed what you saw here today, or if you see any of my episodes, the way you can repay me is go out into the world, do a random act of kindness for a stranger. I don't care what it is, just do something nice to spread some positivity in the world. We need it right now. My little act of kindness was to get this job done for a stranger. I got the means to get it done. A neighbor needed it done, so boom, I'll hook him up, get it done for him, make someone's day by getting a project finished. So spread some positivity in the world. I hope everybody enjoyed what you saw here today. Again, my name's Dusty for Pacific Arc Tig Welding. We'll talk soon. Peace.